For 3 long years, I stood in the shadow of Marcus Taylor, a silent fixture by his side. The world saw me as someone unique in his life, a woman set apart, but I alone understood the bitter truth. It was never me he cared for, it was the reflection I offered, the face that somehow held his attention. Then she returned, Sophia, the one whose memory had never truly left him, and with her came the shattering news: she was promised to another. That night, his fingers closed around my chin, not with tenderness, but a steel grip. Anna, he said, voice low and stripped of warmth, do something for me. His eyes held no apology, only calculation. Seduce Sophia's fiancé. Once he's compromised, she'll turn back to me. My heart stalled. The air in the room grew thick, heavy with betrayal. What did you just say? The words stumbled from my lips, disbelief clouding my throat. His thumb, rough, possessive, dragged across my mouth as if erasing any protest before it could form. Marcus's gaze was a dark abyss, pulling me into depths I'd never wished to know. Don't worry, he murmured, a twisted mockery of reassurance. If you agree, I'll make it worth your while. Isn't your mother still in the hospital? I can summon the finest specialists, no expense spared. He leaned closer, his breath a feverish mist against my neck. Anna, he whispered, and his voice was the same relentless force that had always ruled my world, commanding, absolute, and utterly cold. Help me. And just like that, I was no longer his companion, only his marionette. Overbearing, arrogant, I pressed my hand against his chest. Do I have any room to refuse? You can try. His voice was low and chilling, meeting his dark eyes. I couldn't fathom what he was thinking. I first met Marcus Taylor 3 years ago when I had just graduated and was looking for a job. The moment he saw me, he promoted me to his personal assistant, managing all aspects of his work and life. One night of drinking changed our relationship completely. I became his mistress. I thought I was lucky to meet someone like him. It wasn't until later, when he pinned me to the bed and whispered Sophia in my ear, that I realized I was merely Sophia Haystand. And even so, Marcus Taylor was generous with me, spending a fortune for me at auctions when I had period cramps. He rushed back from a company meeting to make me a warm drink. Everyone thought he'd spoiled me rotten. Anna, I believe you are a sensible girl. His deep voice resonated in my ear. I snapped back to reality. I had no reason to refuse and no way to refuse. I nodded. Okay, I agree, that's my good girl. Marcus Taylor kissed my forehead. I paused. Is this a reward? Of course not. Marcus Taylor pulled out a box as if by magic and handed it to me. I opened it to find a collection of emerald earrings lying inside, glittering brilliantly. Thank you. I managed a slight smile. As long as you're a good girl, I won't treat you unfairly. Marcus Taylor threw off the covers and stood up. He pulled a shirt from nearby and put it on. The sunlight caught his handsome face, making it shine as he buttoned his shirt. He said, you don't need to worry. After this is done, I'll give you a sum of money and send you and your mother abroad. I can arrange for the best neurosurgeon in the world for her, and I'll cover all the expenses of course. Marcus Taylor paused, then lifted his gaze to look at me. If you happen to fancy any man, you can tell me I can arrange for you to marry him. My heart sank when I looked up. He was walking toward me. He casually brushed a stray wisp of hair from my temple behind my ear, his rough thumb caressing my cheek. Honestly, I'll really miss you. Really? I gave a self-deprecating smile. He suddenly spoke. Anna, actually, if you don't want to, you don't have to force yourself. No, I'm willing. If not for this face, how could I have ever gotten this close to him? Agreeing to his terms now would be repaying the favors of these 3 years. Marcus Taylor's deep eyes looked at me. After a moment, he leaned in and pecked my lips. Good girl. My eyelashes fluttered slightly. Do I need to go now? He was silent for a moment. In a couple of days, it will be Grandma Hayes' birthday gala. At that time, I'll find a way to drug the drinks. You just need to entice Ethan Johnson to drink it. I took the things and replied, okay, to perhaps to facilitate my relationship with Ethan Johnson. Marcus Taylor uncharacteristically sent me to Johnson Corporation to deliver documents. When I arrived, Sophia Hayes was clinging to Ethan Johnson. Ethan Johnson, can't you spend more time with me? I just got back to the country. It's been so long since we've seen each other. Ethan Johnson was tall and slender with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. The biggest kid, over 6 feet tall, stood at his desk. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up, revealing strong forearms. He frowned. Sophia, I'm busy, but I Sophia Hayes hesitated, then finally left. As she walked out, she saw me standing at the door, her gaze filled with hostility. What are you doing here? Marcus Taylor and Sophia Hayes were close, and as Marcus Taylor's assistant, everyone took it for granted that I was special to him. Sophia Hayes naturally knew me, she just didn't like me. I lowered my eyes. I'm here to deliver documents to Mr. Johnson. What documents? Let me see. Sophia Hayes reached out her hand to me. I stepped back. I'm sorry, Miss Hayes, these are internal company documents. I can't give them to you. Is that so? Sophia Hayes's gloomy gaze fixed on me. There's nothing I want that I can't get. She directly reached out and grabbed the documents. During the struggle, she stumbled, her forehead hitting the doorframe, nearly falling. You just wait. She was furious, raised her hand and slapped me. Then she stormed out. I stood rooted to the spot, my cheeks stinging. Tears welled up in my eyes. After composing myself, I pushed the door open and walked in. Sophia, I already told you. Ethan Johnson looked up as he spoke, but his words stopped abruptly. The moment he saw me, he froze. Why are you here? Ethan Johnson and Marcus Taylor had many business collaborations for the past 3 years. It was always me by Marcus Taylor's side when he attended events, so I'd also met Ethan Johnson a few times. I hadn't expected him to remember me. I lowered my eyes and replied, Mr. Taylor asked me to deliver documents to you, Mr. Johnson. I presented the documents and turned to leave. Wait. A warm hand gripped my wrist, pulling me back. Ethan Johnson's eyes burned as he stared at me. He suddenly reached out, startling me, and I tried to pull away. Don't move, he said softly, his thumb gently caressing my cheek. What happened? I felt a little helpless. I bumped into something by accident. Is that so? I nodded repeatedly. He didn't speak, but just led me to sit down to the side, then turned and instructed his assistant to bring an ice pack. Apply this, it will reduce the swelling faster. I hastily agreed, then stood up. Mr. Johnson, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now. Without waiting for him to speak, I hurried away. When I returned to Taylor Industries, Sophia Hayes was also there. Seeing me, an undisguised look of disdain crossed her face. She turned to Marcus Taylor, accusing me. Marcus Taylor, your assistant made my head look like this. What are you going to do about it? All right, don't move for now. Aren't I dressing your wound? Marcus Taylor's tone was helpless, yet he carefully cradled Sophia Hayes' face, gently applying medicine to the insignificant wound on her forehead. I don't care. When have I ever been treated this way? Since I was a child. I just wanted to look at that document. Was that wrong? No, it wasn't. My little princess. Marcus Taylor sued her, then turned and beckoned to me. Anna, come over and apologize to Sophia. Sophia Hayes tilted her chin up, looking utterly arrogant. If it were anyone else in the past daring to speak to me like that and slap me, they would have been in deep trouble. But it was Sophia Hayes, the person Marcus Taylor held dearest, suppressing the bitterness in my heart. I stepped forward and bowed. Ms. Hayes, I'm sorry. Sophia Hayes scoffed coldly and turned her face away. You can leave first, Anna. Marcus Taylor dismissed me casually, then went back to coaxing. Sophia Hayes, are you still mad now, my little princess? Can't you just get a different assistant? This one annoys me just looking at her. Sophia Hayes said angrily. If you don't like her, then I'll replace her in a couple of days. Marcus Taylor looked like he'd agree to anything she said. Halfway out, I paused, then walked out as if nothing had happened. 3 It wasn't until Sophia Hayes left that Marcus Taylor called me back. And Sophia hasn't been in a good mood lately and doesn't want to see you. Try to avoid her if you do. I lowered my head and replied, okay. He finally noticed my swollen cheek and frowned. What happened? Ms. Hayes hit me. Marcus Taylor fell silent. He reached out and gripped my chin. He offered to treat my wound. I stepped back, putting distance between us. No need. Mr. Johnson at Johnson Corporation already took care of it. Ethan Johnson. Marcus Taylor's eyes narrowed, revealing a dangerous glint. I knew he was angry, but what was he angry about? That I dared to treat my wound ahead of time? Or was it? A sharp pain on my lips brought me back to reality. Marcus Taylor pressed me against the office desk, his sharp teeth biting my lips. He picked me up and carried me into the lounge. In countless nights past, we had been intimate here. He pressed against my waist, his movements fierce. I bit my lower lip hard, not daring to make a sound of protest. When it was over, he pulled away. He turned and entered the bathroom, emerging impeccably dressed as he applied medicine to my cheek. He said, "From now on, without my permission, you are not allowed to get too close to Ethan Johnson, and you're certainly not allowed to let him touch you, Marcus." Taylor's tone was domineering, but had he forgotten that he was the one who wanted to send me away himself? If I got close to Ethan Johnson, shouldn't he be happier? I didn't understand. On the day of Grandma Hayes' birthday gala, I attended as Marcus Taylor's companion. I hadn't expected approaching Ethan Johnson to be easier than I thought. He stared at me intently, his eyes sparkling. "Your cheek looks much better as planned." A glass of red wine spilled onto him. I profusely apologized and offered to take him upstairs to change. His dark eyes fixed on me, and he agreed. I led him into the room Marcus Taylor had arranged for us in advance. I watched him go into the bathroom and then come out. I quickly picked up the 2 glasses of wine from the table and walked over. "Mr. Johnson, this glass is to you to express my apologies and to thank you for your care last time." I spoke the words I'd mentally rehearsed countless times. For a long moment, I didn't hear him speak. I looked up into his dark eyes, and he finally spoke. "Anna, are you sure about this?" I nodded, unaware of the deeper meaning behind his words. I stubbornly held up the glass, thinking as long as today is over, it will be fine. After today, I'll be free. All right, I'll drink it." Ethan Johnson took the glass and tilted his head back, downing it soon after, his cheeks flushed and his gaze turned heated as he looked at me. He pulled me into his arms. The wine glass in his hand dropped to the floor. With a clatter, "Anna," he called my name, then swept me into his arms and gently placed me on the bed. Unlike Marcus Taylor's rough actions, he was incredibly gentle, as if afraid of hurting me. As the atmosphere in the room reached a fever pitch, the door was suddenly kicked open with a bang. A group of people crowded in. Sophia Hayes' face twisted in a snarl when she saw me beneath Ethan Johnson. She screamed hysterically, "Anna Miller, you, __, how dare you seduce my fiancé? I'll kill you." Sophia Hayes charged at me like a madwoman. For Ethan Johnson pulled me close, immediately grabbing the blanket and covering me. "Sophia, haven't you made enough of a scene?" he roared. Sophia Hayes looked incredulous, tears streaming down her face. "You're scolding me? You and this, __, Anna Miller, are having an affair right here, and you're blabbing me? We're engaged." "Ethan Johnson, are you even human? What's so good about that, __, Anna Miller? What kind of spell has she cast on you?" Sophia Hayes tried to rush forward and tear at me again, but Ethan Johnson pulled her back. Sophia Hayes stumbled back a few steps, glared daggers at me, and ran out crying. Marcus Taylor's gaze swept over me briefly, then he ran out to comfort Sophia Hayes. Only a group of onlookers remained at the door. "Who's that woman daring to seduce young Mr. Johnson? She must have a death wish. I heard she's Marcus Taylor's assistant, and she actually ended up in Ethan Johnson's bed. That's just shameless." I was tightly wrapped in Ethan Johnson's embrace, my body cold, my heart even colder. A moment later, the people at the door were dispersed. I quickly struggled free from Ethan Johnson's arms. I dressed quickly and was about to open the door to leave. A slap landed squarely across my face with a sharp smack. The sound was exceptionally clear. I staggered a few steps, almost falling, but a large hand steadied my waist. Ethan Johnson pulled me behind him. "Mrs. Hayes, please calm down." "Calm down." Mrs. Hayes' scornful gaze swept over me. "You're already engaged to Sophia. Why are you still involved with other women?" To my surprise, Ethan Johnson suddenly grabbed my hand. "I have no romantic feelings for Sophia since this has happened. I won't waste Sophia's time. I will visit with my father another day to break off the engagement with Sophia." "You, Mrs. Hayes," was furious. Ethan Johnson, gripping my hand, pulled me out. Without a word, we walked through the throng of people in the lobby. We exited the main doors. I shook his hand off, about to utter the excuse I had prepared, but he held my hand firmly. "Anna, you've ruined my reputation. You have to take responsibility for me." "What?" I was stunned. Ethan Johnson said solemnly, "Anna, marry me." I fell silent. Agreeing to Marcus Taylor's request to seduce Ethan Johnson was only to repay the kindness of the past 3 years. I had never thought Ethan Johnson would propose such a novel idea as making me Responsible for him even less had I imagined he'd want me to marry him. I asked, why? Why? So many people just saw us lying in bed together. If that gets out, my reputation will be ruined, won't it? Ethan Johnson looked pathetic. But shouldn't I be the one saying that? A sudden ring of a cell phone broke the awkward silence. It was the hospital calling, asking me to go there. Do you need a ride? As soon as I hung up, Ethan Johnson spoke first. I didn't refuse and got into his car. The doctor said my mother's condition had been unstable recently and told me to be prepared. As he spoke, the machines in the ward began beeping. My mother was rushed into the emergency room in a panic. I dialed Marcus Taylor's number. For the past 3 years, whenever something happened to my mother, helpless as I was, I always thought to turn to him first, and he always managed to rush to my side with the utmost speed. But this time was different. The call connected and Sophia Hay's shrill voice came through. Why do you still have that? __, contact information? Fire her. I don't want to see her tomorrow. Marcus Taylor gently coaxed her. All right, whatever makes you happy. I'll call HR right now. Tell me, isn't Anna Miller __, whatever Sophia says goes. Please don't cry, my little princess. I clutched my cell phone, my knuckles white, biting my lip hard. I fought back tears. Suddenly, my palm felt empty. The cell phone was snatched away. The call was disconnected. Still listening? Are you a masochist? Ethan Johnson sat beside me. He conjured a small cake from behind him and offered it to me. Eat something. I paused, then heard him say, didn't you used to love this the most? Used to you? You really forgot about me? As he spoke, Ethan Johnson sly leaned closer, his warm breath fanning across my face. It felt tingly and ticklish. I hesitantly spoke. We knew each other before. Ethan Johnson softly affirmed. I thought for a moment, when was that? Why don't I remember? So, will you consider marrying me? Instead of answering my question, Ethan Johnson said. His intensely assertive gaze fell on me. He suddenly grabbed my hand. No, you have to take responsibility for me. I nervously swallowed. As the atmosphere grew awkward, the doctor emerged from the emergency room. Who here is Eleanor Miller's family? Please come over. I rushed forward immediately. 5 after the surgery, my mother's condition finally stabilized. Ethan Johnson offered to drive me home and I didn't refuse. On the way back, I couldn't help but ask, Mr. Johnson, you just said we knew each other before. In my memory, the few times I had met Ethan Johnson were always when accompanying Marcus Taylor at various public events, but each time, Ethan Johnson showed me extra care. When I was hungry accompanying Marcus Taylor at social events, he would secretly bring me small cakes whenever he came to the company to discuss collaborations and I was in charge of reception. He would sneak me all sorts of little gifts. Sometimes they were snacks, sometimes toys, sometimes small pieces of jewelry. At the time, I just thought he treated everyone the same way, that it would be no different with someone else. But now, I wasn't so sure. Ethan Johnson glanced at me. Yes, in college. I never dated in college. Logically, if I had met someone as handsome and outstanding as Ethan Johnson, there's no way I would have forgotten the next second. Ethan Johnson cleared up my confusion. You were busy working part-time at the coffee shop then, so you naturally didn't notice me. Oh, I softly replied, and silence returned to the car. Ethan Johnson dropped me off at home and didn't drive away until I was inside. Marcus Taylor had said that once I completed the task, I could leave. Presumably, this counted as accomplished. I drafted my resignation letter that night and handed it to HR the next day. Because I had already completed my work handover in advance, it took almost no time and I resigned smoothly. My former colleagues looked at me with disdain. Have you no shame? Seducing someone else's fiancé? That's utterly disgusting. She probably saw Ms. Hayes was back and she was no longer favored, so she rushed to find her next target, right? I heard she was even caught in bed. How embarrassing. Before, when Marcus Taylor doted on me, they naturally wouldn't have dared to speak of me like that. Now with the wall fallen, everyone pushed without Marcus Taylor's protection. I no longer received any good graces from them. After packing up my belongings at my workstation, I decided to say goodbye to Marcus Taylor before leaving. However, When I arrived at the CEO's office upstairs, I found that Marcus Taylor hadn't come to work today. He was probably busy coaxing Sophia Hayes. Mr. Davis handed me a card. Ms. Miller, Mr. Taylor gave this to me to give to you. He said the money inside would ensure you and your mother live comfortably for the rest of your lives. I took the card and said, thank you, as I walked out of Taylor Industries into the blazing sun. Ethan Johnson's car pulled up in front of me. He pulled me into the car without a word. He asked, Anna, would you consider coming to work for my company? I'll pay you double your current salary, and of course, if you're willing to marry me, the entire company will be yours. I chose the former that very day. Ethan Johnson arranged for me to join the company on my first day of work. I was targeted by rumors because of what happened at the Hayes family's gala. When Ethan Johnson heard about this, he immediately stormed down from the CEO's office, grabbed my hand, and declared in front of the entire company Anna was brought in by me from now on. If I catch anyone gossiping about her behind her back, they'll either resign or apologize. All the way, being led by him. I felt a little lost. He said angrily, Anna Miller, are you a blockhead? They're cursing at you. Curse back. He looked like he was frustrated with my lack of assertiveness. I nodded. Okay, Ethan Johnson, why are you so good to me? Is it just because we met a few times at the coffee shop years ago? I voiced the question on my mind. He simply said, because you were good and you deserve better. A few days later, my mother's condition worsened and she re-entered the operating room, going through half a month of back and forth procedures. After the final surgery, the doctor pronounced her dead. During this time, Ethan Johnson stayed by my side. He mobilized his resources and connections to get the best doctors in the industry for my mother. After my mother's funeral arrangements were completed, Ethan Johnson looked at my increasingly thin frame and asked again, Anna Miller, are you really not going to find someone to rely on? Okay, I softly replied. He looked a little incredulous. You? What did you say? I said, I'm willing to take responsibility for you, Ethan Johnson. Ethan Johnson happily picked me up and spun me around several times in his arms. 6 After we decided to marry Ethan Johnson that very day, Ethan Johnson took me to meet his parents. I was very nervous, my palms sweating all evening. Ethan Johnson squeezed my hand tightly. Fortunately, Ethan Johnson's parents had no objections to my background. Grandma Johnson was even more delighted, beaming from ear to ear, and urged us to get married quickly so she could hold her great-grandchild. I nestled into Ethan Johnson's arms, my face flushed with embarrassment. That night, Ethan Johnson and I stayed at the Johnson family home. Perhaps having too much red wine, I became unexpectedly bold and initiated a kiss with Ethan Johnson. Ethan Johnson pulled me away, his eyes dangerous. Anna, do you know what you're doing? I nodded. I do. In an instant, everything turned upside down and I was pinned to the bed. Ethan Johnson's kisses rained down on me. After our wedding was set, we chose a nearby date to hold the ceremony. Although it was soon, it was far from perfunctory. Ethan Johnson hired a professional wedding planner to organize the wedding and had a unique wedding dress custom made for me. Wearing my wedding dress, I walked step by step toward him on the stage. I hadn't expected Marcus Taylor, who had been absent for almost a month, to appear at this moment. He grabbed my hand. Anna, you're getting married. Who are you marrying? Oh, I just remembered. The invitation was mass sent to him the day before yesterday. He probably rushed over without even finishing reading it. Sophia Hayes came with him the moment she saw me. Sophia Hayes' eyes widened in fury. Anna Miller, have you no shame? You're about to get married. Why are you still bothering Marcus Taylor? What? Couldn't get into the Johnson family, so you're just marrying anyone? It was my wedding day. I didn't want to argue with them. My face turned cold. You're not welcome here. Please leave. I'm not leaving. What are you going to do about it? Sophia Hayes, accustomed to her pride, tilted her head, looking defiant. Marcus Taylor stared at me intently, his voice low. Anna, marriage is no trivial matter. Even if you're angry with me, you can't. Mr. Taylor, what are you saying to my wife? Ethan Johnson's voice rang out from behind me. He reached out, wrapped an arm around my waist, pulled me into his embrace, and cast a hostile look at Marcus Taylor. Ethan Johnson. Marcus Taylor froze for a moment, then looked at me. Your fiancé is Ethan Johnson. What is there a problem? I replied, of course, there's a problem. Marcus Taylor's voice had already turned cold. He stepped forward and grabbed my hand. Didn't we agree this was just an act? How can you marry Ethan Johnson? The act became real, I said calmly. Marcus Taylor clenched his fist, furious, and lunged forward, grabbing Ethan Johnson's collar and landing a hard punch. A gasp went through the crowd. I rushed over to block Marcus Taylor. Marcus Taylor, haven't you made enough of a scene? Who I marry is my freedom. You don't need to interfere, and you have no right to interfere. A flicker of shock crossed Marcus Taylor's face. Perhaps he hadn't expected me, who had always been so obedient to him, to be so cold one day. He gripped my shoulders, lowering his voice. Anna, listen to me. When I asked you to get close to Ethan Johnson, I never thought it would turn out like this. Now I regret it. The person I truly like is you. Don't marry him, okay? Sophia Hayes, hearing this from the side, instantly exploded. She rushed forward, hitting Marcus Taylor. Marcus Taylor, are you even human? You clearly promised me. How could you be enchanted by that, __, Anna Miller? Then she turned her wrath on me. Anna Miller, you homewrecker, it's all your fault. You've seduced both Ethan Johnson and Marcus Taylor. I'll kill you, you, __. Sophia Hayes' face was contorted in fury as she lunged at me, but just before she could reach me, Ethan Johnson pulled her away. Security guards held her down and escorted her out. Are you all right? Ethan Johnson's concerned voice whispered next to my ear. I leaned heavily against his strong chest, my face flushing uncontrollably. Even my ears felt hot. I shook my head, but couldn't help but worry. This won't affect the wedding, will it? It won't, Ethan Johnson said, stroking my head reassuringly. He told me to go ahead. He wanted to say a few words to Marcus Taylor before I could speak, he added. Don't worry, just a few words, nothing else. Okay. Hearing his words, I felt relieved and left, lifting my skirt. A moment I left, Marcus Taylor lunged forward and grabbed Ethan Johnson's collar. Ethan Johnson, are you even a man? How dare you steal my woman? Anna is mine, yours. As if he'd heard the funniest joke, Ethan Johnson laughed. He slowly spoke. From the moment you decided to use her as a tool, she wasn't yours anymore. Besides, you didn't like her that much, did you? To so easily treat her as a tool. By what right do you claim she's yours? You, Marcus Taylor, was hit where it hurt. And his face twisted in rage. His fist hung in midair, poised, but not falling. Ethan Johnson showed no fear, sticking his face out. Go ahead and hit me. Let's see if she'll hate you or hate me. Marcus Taylor paused and finally let go. When I came out, the wedding venue had returned to normal and the guests were seated. Marcus Taylor was nowhere to be seen. I walked toward Ethan Johnson on the stage, trailing my long gown under the witness of all our friends and family. We exchanged vows and rings. Kiss amidst the cheers of the crowd. Ethan Johnson pulled me into his arms, his warm lips pressed against mine. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Marcus Taylor standing in a corner of the venue. His face was filled with resentment. 7 After the ceremony, I got into the wedding car and returned to the home. Ethan Johnson and I shared the moment. We entered, he eagerly pushed me onto the bed and pressed himself against me. His hot breath misted it against my neck. He called my name in a husky voice. Anna. I arched my neck, my hands pressed against his chest, breathing lightly. I responded with a soft and as I spoke, the deep red bed curtains fell. He pinned me beneath him, holding my hands and whispering that he loved me. I murmured in response, I love you, too. The bed swayed and the room was filled with enchantment. For the next few days after the wedding, Ethan Johnson kept me in bed as if he would never tire. I laughed and came eager. He took my hand and kissed it. After finally marrying the wife I wanted so badly, can't a man be eager? I had no retort. 7 days after the wedding, for our first visit back to my family, I sat at my vanity getting ready. Just as I was about to put on my earrings, Ethan Johnson suddenly appeared behind me and gently held my hand. Who gave you these? My movements paused. The earrings. Marcus Taylor gave them to me. I looked at the emerald earrings resting peacefully in the jewelry box. During the 3 years I was with Marcus Taylor, he gave me many things. I discarded the cheap ones, but kept the valuable ones. Ethan Johnson remained silent. I knew he was angry and I knew he was asking knowingly. I closed the earring box and chuckled softly. All right, I won't wear them then. I had no other intention for wearing these. Earrings. I just thought they were pretty. Ethan Johnson took the emerald earrings Marcus Taylor had given me and replaced them with his diamond earrings. Anna, you can tell me if you want anything. Let's return these to Marcus Taylor. I laughed at his childishness, but still agreed. Okay, whatever you say. On the way back, Ethan Johnson had an urgent company matter, so he left first. The driver dropped me off at the entrance. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Marcus Taylor, who had been waiting there for a while. Anna, he called my name in just 2 short months. I no longer felt the old stirrings for him. I had to marvel at the wonders of time. Once more I spoke. Is there something you need, Anna? Why did you suddenly return these to me? Marcus Taylor was as domineering as ever, grabbing my hand. He pulled the pair of emerald earrings from his pocket. I hadn't expected Ethan Johnson to deliver them to him so quickly. I said calmly, Ethan Johnson doesn't like them. I clearly saw a flicker of pain cross Marcus Taylor's face. He said softly, Anna, you used to not be like this. Used to. Was I before everything revolved around Marcus Taylor? If he said east, I wouldn't dare go west. I loved him even more than I loved myself. More than once, I shielded him from his arranged dates, only to be labeled a home wrecker, a mistress, and so on by them. Being cursed and beaten was normal. Once, one of his fanatic admirers even broke 3 of my ribs with a chair. Marcus Taylor would always send me to the best hospital for treatment and give me a lot of money as compensation. It was always, Anna, you've worked hard. But after that, I would still be hit if I was supposed to be. I thought anyone by his side would suffer the same fate. Later, I realized that wasn't true. When Sophia Hayes was around, he wouldn't let anyone harm a single hair on her head. Once, a socialite in Metropolis who liked him merely said something negative about Sophia Hayes. The next day, her family went bankrupt. Of course, there's no denying that Marcus Taylor did help me a lot. It's just that his love was never meant for me. I slowly spoke. The past is the past. It's all over now. I found a better home. You said that if I found someone I liked, I should tell you, and you'd arrange for me to marry him. Now you don't need to arrange it. I've already found him. From now on, take care of yourself. With that, I turned and walked through the main doors. Anna, as I pushed open the main doors, Marcus Taylor suddenly called out to me. I paused briefly, then ignored him and walked through the door. Madam is back, the housekeeper said. I nodded, returned to my room, picked up my laptop, and went to Ethan Johnson's home office to work on his desk. I found a journal. It was filled with my photos, not only grown-up ones, but also childhood photos. I was stunned. How did Ethan Johnson have photos of me as a child? I took the photos out and asked the housekeeper what was going on. The housekeeper took the photos and looked. Oh, the girl in these pictures is Fr. Yen, the young master used to play with a lot. The housekeeper rattled on. When the young master was 5, his father and mother were having relationship problems and had several arguments about divorce. To prevent the young master from being affected, they sent him to his grandma's house in the countryside. I went along to look after him then. This little girl was in the same preschool as the young master at the time. She was a very cute little girl and often looked after him. They got to know each other quickly. Back then, the young master often brought her home to play. They were incredibly close. The young master stayed there for 3 years. Later, when the company's situation stabilized, and his father and mother weren't arguing much anymore, they brought the young master back. After that, the two of them lost touch. Even after he came back, the young master often thought about that little girl. The housekeeper's voice echoed in my ears as I stared intently at the young pair in the photos. Did the housekeeper mean that Ethan Johnson and I had known each other since childhood? I suddenly remembered Ethan Johnson's earlier meaningful remark. No wonder all these years someone had been tirelessly pursuing me without my knowledge. I flipped through the thick photo album from my preschool days to elementary school, then all the way through college graduation. There were photos from every stage. Some even had the dates clearly marked. I couldn't imagine how Ethan Johnson had managed all these years. If Marcus Taylor hadn't made that request of me, I wouldn't have actively sought him out. Would we have missed each other then? The young master is back, a voice called from outside. The next moment, the door opened and Ethan Johnson walked in as usual. He came over and pulled me into his lap. Settling into the chair, he leaned his head down, pressing soft kisses to my face. I wrapped my arms around his neck and called his name. Ethan Johnson. He hummed softly, still burying his head against my chest. I spoke. You said before that you've known me for a very long time. How long is very long? He paused, then looked up At me, why are you bringing this up all of a sudden? I want to know. He tried to be vague, but I pulled out the thick photo album. He looked at me. You remembered? I shook my head. My aunt told me, but I want to hear it from you directly. I wanted to hear him tell me how he'd gotten through all those years by himself, the years I hadn't remembered him. I wanted to hear him explain why after all this time, he still hadn't forgotten. His expression was complicated. You really want to hear it? I nodded. He began. It was probably more than 10 years ago. Ethan Johnson told me the first time he saw me was in preschool. Back then, due to family issues, he was introverted and didn't like to talk. He was often picked on by the other kids at preschool. Sometimes they'd snatch the school supplies his parents had carefully chosen for him. Other times, it was his snacks. This often left Ethan Johnson hungry. One day, the biggest kid in preschool came to take his food. Just like usual, he thought he was going to go hungry again, but then I suddenly appeared. My small self clenched a fist, and with one punch, I sent the class bully tumbling. From then on, I became the boss of the preschool, and I told him I'd always look out for him. I kept my word. After that, no one dared to pick on him or steal his food again. Ethan Johnson became my little sidekick. Hearing all this, I wasn't surprised. When I was little, my mom hadn't gotten sick yet, and my dad was still around. The love they gave me made me exceptionally brave in facing the world. And I had a cheerful personality. I could totally see myself doing everything Ethan Johnson described. Ethan Johnson chuckled wryly. Later, my parents took me back, and I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to you. Watching you fall in the rain while chasing after me, I felt incredibly guilty. I'm sorry, Anna. His eyes were fixed intently on me. His reminder jogged my memory. My mom had once mentioned that when I was around 8 years old, I developed a high fever after getting caught in the rain. After that, I forgot everything that happened before I turned 8. It was normal not to remember Ethan Johnson, a person who had only briefly been in my life. I squeezed his hand. It's okay. Everything you've done since then has more than made up for it. After all, if it were me, I don't think I could have been so utterly captivated by one person for so many years. A playful thought suddenly struck me, and I asked him, Ethan Johnson, if I hadn't made the first move back then, would we have missed our chance? No, Ethan Johnson stated with certainty. Why not? He pulled me closer into his embrace. Because I would always find you. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.